All right, hello everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. Our next session is entitled Next Generation Social Media to Achieve Transparency and Open Government Directives, led by George Thomas, Enterprise Architect at HHS. George Thomas is a technical architect at HHS who has been leading implementations of semantic web and linked data applications for Data.gov. A frequent GTRA speaker, today he'd like to share with you how these technologies are being employed on Data.gov now and plans for the future. I'll hand it over to George.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks everybody for coming to the session and to my friends at HHS, my bosses. Thanks to Park and Kelly and the GTRA staff and council for the opportunity to talk with you all this morning. We had some good boardroom sessions, I know I did. So some of the collateral Parm has is in different states. This session is about Data.gov, present and future. So we want to tell you about what's going on with the semantic web and linked data on Data.gov. I've had the privilege of being able to work with the Data.gov PMO for the past, since around February of this year. And we're trying to get serious about our use and exploration of semantic web and linked data in social media to come. So I want to show you a little bit about the present by just taking a look at the Data.gov site really quickly, and then I'll launch into the presentation and talk more about the activities we're engaged in going forward. So feel free to interject or heckle, as many of my friends have said here this morning, as we go. Linking open government data, as you see on the home page here. This is for those of us that have been involved with semantic web technologies for quite a few years now. It's actually, these technologies are about 10 years old, so it's officially okay for us to use them in government contexts. It's quite an achievement to actually be saying linking open government data, and things like the semantic web on the Data.gov homepage. So this is the activity that we need to engage in going forward. We had the pleasure of working with some of the co-inventors of the semantic web technologies. Professor Jim Handler from the Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, along with Sir Tim Berners-Lee. Jim actually invented a lot of the stuff while he was at DARPA. The DARPA agent markup language and the ontology inferencing language are things that came out of DARPA, as many good internet-oriented things do. And we worked with RPI over the past few months and more going forward in a collaborative relationship to get to where we are now, and they'll be helping us get where we're going. Primarily what RPI did was take existing data sets that were already published, open government data on Data.gov, and they triplified them. And I'll tell you a little bit about what triples are, which is kind of the foundational data modeling idea of the semantic web and the technologies that are used to do that. So Data.gov right now is one of the largest open RDF file servers on the web with 6.4 billion triples. And we'll see how we generate those triples a little bit more during the conversation. Professor Handler likes to say, start thinking of a million as a small number. So 6.4 billion items of information is just the beginning. It represents about 400 RDF data sets on Data.gov now, which I'll show you a little bit about where it is. Not exactly optimized for this netbook here, but if we go to the semantic web landing page, you'll see a couple different things that I want to point out. One of which is the index of all the RDF data that's available. If our connection is still holding out here, it looks like it is. So this is where the index is, and so we can go there and see, just like the existing Data.gov catalog for other types of data, be they XML or CSV or whatever. This is the list of all the RDF data sets that are now available on Data.gov. So this is these data sets make up the 6.4 billion triples that are currently on Data.gov. So I wanted to show you that link, and also want to show you the Sparkle endpoint. So in DRM terms, this is a query point, and there is a live Sparkle endpoint on Data.gov that's made possible by a tool called Virtuoso, which is used quite a lot in the semantic web space. So you can actually enter a query against the underlying data store here using the Sparkle language. Sparkle is to the resource description framework standard as SQL is to a relational data model. So you can query directly from this page, and we'll be spicing up this query point page here a bit more going forward. So lots of triples currently on Data.gov, a Sparkle endpoint that allows you programmatic access to the data on Data.gov, and that's pretty much the present. So where we need to go in the future is what we mean by linking. So Tim Berners-Lee talks about a 5-star maturity model, if you will, for open government data. And it's basically, put your data out there in machine-readable formats, get you at a 3, use semantic web technologies like RDF, the resource description framework, to get you a 4, but actually linking across those will get you a 5. So we have a little bit of catch-up to do with our friends across the pond in the UK with Data.gov.uk in terms of linking across these government domains. And the use case here is, if there's something, if there are some health statistics in a particular area of the country, so we have a geodomain and we have a health domain, perhaps there's something in the water that we want to know from EPA, or maybe there's something going on with the atmosphere that's affecting that health statistic from NASA, maybe. So this idea of cross-domain correlation is really where the data web, or the web of data, or linked data shines. So I want to jump into the presentation now and talk about the kind of stuff that we need to start doing and the work that we're doing in the PMO. So I want to do a little bit of sort of baseline, a little foundation. What's the difference between this idea of a web of data versus the web that we're all familiar with, the web of documents? So I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. I'm going to use some examples to give you an idea of what common and distinct vocabularies are. So we say vocabularies whenever we don't want to scare people by saying things like ontologies. And that's really all it is. We're talking about vocabularies, controlled vocabularies, but the key thing is that these vocabularies are dereferenceable on the web. So the metadata specifications themselves are not something that is locked up in a document or obscured by an underlying repository. They're actually something that you can do an HTTP GET on as a person or a machine. And that turns out to be really useful. URI schemes is really about the path of the URL that you see. And so conventions around this are emerging as best practices. And that'll help us link from one domain to another. So I want to introduce you to that idea of URI schemes. I want to tell you a little bit about the sort of decentralized nature of these technologies. So it's a good fit for federation. The idea that we all have to use the same terms and the same controlled vocabulary is not something that's necessary in order to interlink cross-domain information. And that's a really important value proposition for the web and the data web as well. And then I want to show you some examples of how we think the social web, social media might be applied as we go forward with Data.gov. And the basic idea, a lot of marketing people are talking about social objects. What is the thing that we network around on Facebook? It's family pictures, whatever the case may be. Those objects are the things that bring us together and give us the impetus to create user-generated content. So in this context, we want to think about metadata, the specifications, the vocabularies, the ontologies as social objects that we all virally engage in and evolve together. And data itself, the curation of the instances of that metadata, which will help us do a better job with data quality. Okay, so the web of docs. Well, we're all familiar with this. And for me, 20 years ago, it was the difference between continuing to be a starving musician and being gainfully employed since then. So thank you to Berners-Lee for inventing the web. It's good to have a job. So it's a simple idea.